Hey, I'm Ben, and this is Bonnie.
And this is our testimony about God's goodness during lockdown.
So, right at the beginning of March, we had a very secret wedding before we were due to go out and have our big white wedding ceremony in South Africa.
Getting married in secret was quite unusual and it felt quite strange not telling anyone, but we had to trust that it was the right thing to do. The Lord really honored that obedience and the submission because our wedding was cancelled.
After months of planning and putting down some deposits, everything fell through because of the coronavirus pandemic that hit the world right at the beginning of March.
God, in His faithfulness, spared us so much financial loss because we just had this inkling that we shouldn't put all the deposits down. We kind of left it last minute, and I'm so grateful we just did that.
All of the borders started closing around the world and flights started getting cancelled, and conveniently or inconveniently, Bonnie had just left to fly out to South Africa on the 10th of March, and I wasn't due to join her until 2 weeks later. And at the time, I remember I was freaking out. I was looking at everything closing. I didn't know what to do. I just felt God speak to me one day and say, you just need to get a flight. You need to just go and you need to get out there and just be with Bonnie.
So Ben managed to make it into South Africa on one of the last flights that were entering the country. In fact, while he was in the air, the president announced that the borders were shutting. So praise God that he made it. From the moment that Ben landed in South Africa, things just went pear-shaped. The lockdown happened, we had nowhere to stay, and God provided us with a beautiful house in Musicbed through church family. We weren't sure about when we were going to get back to the Isle of Man and how long the lockdown was going to be. So we were just faced with huge uncertainty, and God just gave us such a supernatural peace about everything.
I feel the biggest lesson of a lockdown was putting trust in God. The whole world was crazy. Everything was going wrong. The wedding was cancelled, pandemic, we were stuck in another country. Everything was against us, and yet somehow there was this supernatural peace that we experienced. I just felt that everything was okay. God was there and God was with us.
Given that the wedding was cancelled, we were obviously really disappointed, and we realized that our families aren't going to meet, and more than that, we actually weren't able to see any of my family while we were in South Africa. So there was just a mountain of uncertainty as to how long are we going to be stuck in South Africa, what's our next move, how are we going to get back to the Isle of Man, and when. We prayed really specific prayers for God's favour and His grace in the situations, His guidance and His provision, and He exceeded every request that we had.
God really just gave us a fresh perspective of His love for us and how He had more of a plan for this lockdown than just for us to get married.
In a season of severe disappointment, we really just saw God come through in so many ways. We just really experienced God's Father heart for us with abounding blessing, just so much favour.
It's been an incredible last 3 months. God has really just done incredible things in our lives and turned what was potentially a really bad situation into something that's actually been a fantastic last 3 months.
We had fun together. We were married and we had this 3-month-long honeymoon. Though it wasn't exactly the honeymoon we'd planned, it was exactly what we needed in that season.